Welcome, Facebook. Welcome, Facebook. We're doing it. Another wellness workshop. My name is Kraig Smyth, MyBizGuide in the Business of Being Human. I will be your host this evening on July 5th. So, kind of a holiday for people. People are out doing some things. And the topic of alignment, I was a little bit out of alignment and I forgot to send out all the links, all the Zoom links to the usual people that show up. I forgot I didn't send them out till 4:30. So right now it's just myself and my sideways host, Griselda, my sideways co-host, my sideways side host, Griselda. So,
Oh, sideways.
oh, you're back right side up again. Welcome.
Oh, did it have me sideways?
Yes,
Okay.
you're sideways. So don't forget, we're on Facebook.
I know that's why it put me
Even
sideways
though
because I was
there's,
doubling.
even though there's, yeah, so maybe some people will show up, maybe not. Like I said, my bad. I forgot to, I forgot to send people the links, and usually I do that yesterday. But I always think about the story of, a lot of famous musicians tell the same story that when they were starting out, they played and there wasn't anyone there, playing to empty seats, but they still did their best. And so the people that are there matter. And the people that are here matter, and the people that might be dropping by, you never know when someone's going to hear something that helps us out a little bit. And this alignment is one of my favorite topics. Um, when I make a title for a workshop, I go through the motions and I start thinking about all the different aspects of it. And then I also go through my notes and I just do a simple word search. So most of the topics, when I do a word search, I get, 15 to 25 search results. Okay. Well, the most I ever had was challenge, and challenge was like 256, but this one was 61. So when I did a search for alignment, there was 61 search results. So it was mentioned 61 times in previous articles that I'd written and notes that I'd taken about the topic. So super important topic, alignment, and a little bit of overview about the program. If people are new watching, I'd like to introduce some topics and some conversations with the hopes that people continue these topics and conversations and continue thinking about these things. And it's not a get it and understand it and go and we got it. All these things are far more in depth. The human species is very, very intricate. So um, I think it's important for us to relax and entertain some topics without rushing to judgment. I think that if we sit back and allow for information to come in, we start to develop an understanding, a more holistic understanding of what understanding is, and that's what it's about. On that note, we have a little thing that we like to do here, and I say, understanding is the soil, an idea is the seed, intention is the water, action is the sunlight. So we are going to add some understanding here. And I like to say that alignment is a foundational understanding. So much of what we do has to do with alignment, and there's so many examples of alignment. So what is alignment? Alignment is our unique path. So that's the first thing. We have to align with our own self, with our own unique path. So that's one part of it, right? And then the other part of it is, of course, aligning with natural forces, because we're on a planet, and it's kind of silly that we need to talk about that, but we do, because that's where our species is at right now. So the alignment, there's always an internal and an external factor. And there's our personal, and then there's our community. And within that alignment, that's balance. So there's internal, external, that balance factor is alignment. Boundaries are alignment. When we talk about boundaries and growing boundaries, growing healthy boundaries, another one of our previous talks, that's alignment. And the first boundary is with ourselves. So our own moral compass, our own individual moral compass is a boundary. And then what is acceptable in our community is a boundary. And the conversations that we maintain, those are boundaries. Prioritizing, those are boundaries, and boundaries are alignment. Prioritizing is alignment. There's so many things to do. So prioritizing is an example of alignment. When we say we see signs, that's an alignment. When a bird swoops down right in front of our window, or we see something cool that just kind of happens mysteriously, that's alignment. Good feelings and bad feelings are alignment. Both those things, because it's when we talk about alignment, we're talking about this concept of being on our path and being in a place on our path where we grow, where we develop. Our alignment is alignment with our development, with our personal development. And that's what all this is, our wellness, our personal development. What are things that we can intentionally do to align with our path of personal development? That word align. When we say intuition, thinking about our intuition, our instinct, that's part of alignment. When we talk about our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual facets, just of being human, that's part of alignment, because those are things that we can cross-check. Am I paying attention to my physical wellness, my mental wellness, my emotional wellness, my spiritual wellness? All those things, if we give those intention, that's alignment. That's part of that alignment. Also, understanding natural laws, challenge, balance, ebb and flow, cycles, connection to everything, sustainability. Those are all parts of alignment, because it helps us understand our environment. And remember, alignment is a foundational understanding, and understanding is alignment. So cognitively understanding is a big part of alignment. And that's when we say cognitive growth and healing, that's what it is. And that's my main focus, is to say things on cognitive understanding level, like here's how natural cycles work. Here's some readily observed processes in nature. Here's the reflections of those processes in our own human centric ecosystem, in our own physical being. All those things are understandings, right? And that's what we said, understanding is a soil. So we're always adding soil, and that thing, understanding is a soil, idea is a seed, intention is the water, action is the sunlight. Lots of ideas, and lots of intention. So there's always soil. So we're always adding this understanding. And those simple concepts, that's part of alignment. The Socrates, all our favorite philosophers, all those quotes, all those observations of how things function well, those are all alignment tools. So when Socrates says that to be truly knowledgeable, we first must know that we know nothing. That's a understanding. When we understand all the different aspects of that and hold that with intention, that's all part of our alignment. That's all part of our understanding and how we function. And then another favorite is Be Hollow Bones, Frank Foolscrow. And that's all part of alignment. That's like how we should feel, how we should let flow happen. And alignment lets flow happen. And I think that that's a real important thing to understand. What we're doing is we're opening up ourselves so that we are in a positive flow and removing blockages. So also by understanding, we can understand some things especially in contemporary society, because I'm going to go there. The part of alignment where we are removing blockages, things like ideologies, uh, un un oh, what am I trying to say there? Ideologies, unrealized concepts. So concepts that we perpetuate that haven't been fully fleshed out, that we haven't thought about a lot. I'm sure there's another way to say it. I can't think about it right now though. But those are blockages. So all of our alignment is letting flow happen. So opening ourselves up to get in that thing called flow, and also removing blockages. So those are two things. And then there's balance, right? So we talked about balance a little bit. That's a natural law, and understanding a natural law, again, part of alignment. So part of our alignment is, okay, when we look and we see and we recognize balance, we recognize that we have to open ourselves up and then also remove blockages. So those are two parts of letting flow happen. And flow is a huge understanding just in the natural world, in the natural planet, and rivers. And that's why we don't have dams, that kind of thing. So dams blocking flow, clogged arteries, all that sort of thing. Now we've got a couple more people tuning in. Again, I apologize because I sent out the links super late. I just sent them out a couple hours ago, and I usually send them out the day before. So hello, Tuxia and Kimberly. Thanks for showing up. It was just Griselda and I, and she's heard all this before, so she doesn't even need to hear it again. She knows it. Right. Alignment is knowing that when I did my intro earlier, we were talking about, these things, we keep these in rotation. If we talk about our mental ecosystem and our mental habitat and introducing ideas into our mental habitat, alignment is knowing that when we're introducing these concepts and meditations, that we keep them, right? We keep watering them. That's the soil is the understanding, and the intention is the water, the concept is the seed. So we keep giving intention to these concepts and keep them in circulation. Oh, and there's circulation. Okay. So if there's cycles, and that's another natural law. So understanding these natural laws occurring in our natural environment on an external level are also occurring internally. So that's another example of alignment and how we can use our consciousness, our cognitive, plain, simple, mental, cognitive, objective thought process to say, oh, okay, here's cycles we can see in nature and the seasons, and then the tides and ebb and flow, and life cycles and natural life cycles. So when we start talking about the more intricate dimensions of the human species, the human centric aspects, we can say, oh, look, here's some cycles. And so keeping these, keeping understanding, being intentional about our personal development is part of alignment. So the topic alignment and being conscious about our alignment and what is alignment and how are we implementing alignment to help our personal development, to help our flow. And understanding, I'll repeat myself a little bit, understanding natural processes is a huge key to understanding our own personal development. And then there's some human-centric terms, like understanding that we have the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And it's interesting that there's so many there's so many amazing aspects in the human ecosystem. Oh, look, that's just like our natural ecosystem. So if we're trying to understand nature, and as someone with a background in fisheries, forestry, and wildlife, the interconnected ecosystems and understanding how species live and develop in their natural habitats it's infinite. And it's so finite and it's so vast at the same time. And when we go down this personal development journey and understanding our human species, we find that same thing. We find that our personal development journey is so finite and so vast at the same time. So I think that's pretty cool to see those mirrors, right? And that's alignment for me. That's a big part of alignment. And of course, that's our pattern recognition, right? Pattern recognition, one of the hallmarks of humanity and cognitive thought process, that's alignment. I'll do a little bit of a repeat here for the people just now showing up. And again, I appreciate you just now showing up, since I just now gave the link to everybody. That was my bad. But that oh shoot, I lost what I was going to say then. The reflections of our I got it. The pattern recognition. So pattern recognition is a key, hallmark of human-centric thought process. So that's all alignment. Yeah. And I was saying that alignment, I had 61 notes on alignment, and usually I have like 15 to 20. So alignment is huge. And as you've seen from just tuning in, that's all I've been saying is all these different things are alignment. What is alignment? All these things are alignment. Everything's alignment. I think that our core essence is looking for alignment because it's looking for pattern recognition, right? This core, we talk about foundational things, foundational, like the core essence of what it's like to be human. We're looking for pattern recognition. And to use this English word alignment, I think fits really well there. So pattern recognition is alignment. We see that, oh, this is similar to this, and this happened under this circumstance, and this happened under this circumstance. And that gives us that feeling that we're headed in a certain direction. So that certain direction is understanding. And when we said that alignment is a foundational understanding, and understanding itself is alignment. Let everybody digest that for a minute.
Understanding alignment is alignment itself. Is that what you just said?
No, that's not what I said, but that's true too. I was
Okay.
saying that it's everything's alignment I said that understanding is foundational. Alignment is a foundational understanding, and understanding itself is alignment. So when you're looking at pattern recognition, and that's what cycles are, understanding all those things, pattern recognition, understanding the natural laws, seeing the interconnectivity of everything, seeing that natural push for sustainability, and then balance, and that naturally occurring challenge, ebb, flow, cycles. That's all pattern recognition. And so when we see those things in the pattern recognition, that's alignment with our understanding. So as humans, our cognitive thought process is that one thing that allows us to understand our environment and adapt to it. Key. None of us would be here without our cognitive thought process, without understanding our environment and things that we need to do to adapt to it. We understood that, oh, we don't have fangs or claws, so we need to make tools and stone tools and tool use and how that helps us adapt. And we don't have fur, so we need to use the fur from other beings and fire and keep warm, and we have different shelter needs. So some of these core fundamentals of understanding, that's alignment, and that's our survival. And then that's our fit for our physical. Now, when we start to understand our mental, emotional, spiritual, our cognitive thought process, that's how we're using alignment. The cognitive thought process, alignment, do things make sense? And is there pattern recognition? So pattern recognition is the first part of, okay, there's consistency. So looking for consistency is a huge part of alignment. That allows us to understand a situation better. If we know that the fish are coming through here every time about this year, that's consistency. That's alignment with understanding the natural environment. If we know that this plant blooms every time this year and then it's ready to eat, then that's alignment. That's understanding our environment. That's alignment. So understanding our internal environment and our internal psychology is alignment also. Understanding concepts like compulsive, reactive, conscious, responsive is alignment. You got visitors. So that's an understanding, that's aligning ourselves with how we function better. So when we can tell the difference, when we're aware, when we're paying attention, we can tell the difference when we're in a good, healthy state or a negative state, a negative cycle or addictive cycle. We say compulsive reactive or conscious responsive. So when we pay attention to ourselves like that, we pay attention to where we're at on an energetic level and how we're feeling and how we're acting, that's alignment. So we see where we want to be and what are things that we can do to get to where we want to be. What are things we can do to transcend anxiety? What are things we can do to increase our flow, to increase our wellness? What are things that we can do to grow healthy, right? Some of the easy ones, well, intention. So there's intention there. And remember, we say intention is the water. So intention, so we can intentionally integrate things into our life that help us with our alignment and that help us with our alignment. That help us with our personal development. So we can integrate wellness videos, of course, eat right, exercise, taking time to breathe, do yoga, these kind of things to help us seek that, what they say, the balance and our personal balance. And so there's a lot of intention of understanding, the intention of understanding, and understanding requires intention. So intention, awareness, we have to be paying attention. We have to put together the clues. We have to look for the patterns. All those things are all part of alignment. And again, alignment is finding our individuality and our own personal path and where we're at in our own personal development, our personal needs, our feelings, And how does alignment feel is another part of it, because we can do all the cognitive thought process and say, yes, this makes sense, this makes sense, this makes sense. But we've also got to be connected to our other facets, right? If we say physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and predominantly here we're working on the mental facet, because it's easy to do pattern recognition, do appeal to pattern recognition, say this makes sense because this is connected to this, is connected to this, is connected to this. But we're probably even more emotional than we are mental and cognitive thought process. As a matter of fact, I'll go on record to say that. First, if we got our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, we're really mostly spiritual, then emotional, then we've got the mental, cognitive thought process and the physical and the instincts. So understanding those four main facets is alignment. But within that, we can say, okay, well, this makes sense to me. The words make sense on an objective thought process level, but how does it make sense? How does it resonate with my emotion? And then how do these things resonate with my instinct and ancestral wisdom? Because we've got physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, right? I've said that 2 million times in the past 5 minutes. 2,000,001. Here we go. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, instinct, objective thought process, emotional intelligence, ancestral wisdom. So those four aspects, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, instinct, objective thought process, emotional intelligence, ancestral wisdom. All those facets within us, we cross-check. How does the conversation resonate with our instincts, with our thought process, with our emotional intelligence, with our ancestral wisdom, without getting too deep into each one of those? And same thing. So how does what I think, how is that reflected in what I say and how I act, right? Are my actions and my words in line with my thoughts, and vice versa? So these are all alignment tools that we have as humans. So we've got a huge toolbox full of alignment. So there's no reason anyone should be out of alignment. Don't forget, prioritization is an alignment tool. So alignment, alignment, alignment. I'm just reading down like the list of alignment right now. The list of alignment tools. There's that physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and then talking about, then there's 2 more or 8 more, 2 more sections, 8 more aspects of humanity. So I say that there's 12 core facets of every human: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, then infant, adolescent, adult, elder, male, female, both, neither. So those are all alignment tools. Those are all things that we can cross-check. And when we're talking about our emotion and emotional intelligence, how does it feel? How does it feel to connect with all those? And what are all those? If you're not familiar with those aspects, if you're not and you want to know, catch me back. Another topic, personal topics, one-on-one topics, all that sort of thing. But so there's 12 right now talking about alignment. And funny, this just came up organically in a conversation I was having this morning, but it's come up a lot more times in my life talking with people. A lot of people have a singular concept of themselves. So most people think of themselves in a singular, like I'm me, I'm just an individual, right? We're on our individual path. But when I think of myself, thinking of myself as an individual doesn't really work that well. It's not dynamic enough. I have to work off of my 12 main facets: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, infant, adolescent, adult, elder, male, female, both, neither. So that's a more diverse and I think more realistic aspect of, so each one of us is actually 12 of us. Okay. And that's an alignment tool. And when we talk about flow has to stop if it's a singular. And there's like no such thing as singular. If nothing else, there's no balance there. So when people think of themselves as, if we did a psychological profile, a lot of people think of themselves related to a word. Me, I, or your name. And I always tell people, build a boundary between your name, because that's just one word. We're not just one word. One word doesn't have the capacity to reciprocate our thought process and our development. Plus, it's just a word. Don't forget, words don't hold value. Words can only reflect value up to a certain point in certain circumstances. And no word can reflect the value of an individual. And by value, we mean the components that's needed to have a conversation with ourselves. So when we have a conversation with ourselves, plural, we're having conversation with a group with 12 of us. So there's an old term, it says, keep your own counsel. Well, a council of one's not a council. We need 4 for a quorum, right? Isn't that how it works? So these are kind of common things that are floating around, but not applied to the individual in a personal development level, right? It takes a quorum. So there's 4. There's our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. So technically, we have our quorum. So if we relate everything to our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, that should be the minimum to get us by. Again, this is alignment. This whole concept is an alignment tool. Now, to go further, we can implement those: infant, adolescent, adult, elder, and then female, male, both, neither. So, and then 12, interesting. I think that's the number of jurors there are. I don't care at all about that, but it's an interesting parallel. So that's alignment in itself, right? Organic conversational about alignment, and that we've got these 12 main facets to the human, and then there's 12 jurors. Okay. And that is a colonialized system, but there's always natural things flowing through everything. There's always core, we're all human, no matter what disconnect. There's still real things flowing through every culture and every subculture, and same with, I just want to bring that point home. Even in addiction, addicts are still human. Colonial people are still human. Colonial minded people are still human. So there's still fundamental things. We're an organism on this planet, first of all, and we're a human. And so everyone's got these fundamental human centric things. So, and if that helps someone understand the concept that you've got these 12 facets, and there's 12 people on a jury, so you're supposed to have 12 people making an important decision, right? That's an alignment. So that's a kind of a relative thing, because we see pattern recognition, and then that instinctively that sits with us on a deep level, on a deep human level, on like our core essence, pattern recognition. Oh, here's 12, here's 12. Okay, there's a little bit of alignment there. And so that's something that maybe someone can say, oh, next time they start to get into that scarcity mindset, And then that's when they're thinking about me. But it's not just me, there's four of me. And scarcity mindset is never taking into consideration all the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual factors. It's going to be shortcutting one of those. So if we make sure that we're doing the best for all four of those facets, right? And I'm using some contemporary parallels here. Crazy. Make sure you have a quorum. When you're going through your decision making, make sure you have a quorum. Make sure that your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual all agree that what you're doing is going to be the best thing in context. It might not be the right thing, but it's going to be the best thing, right? Depending on our situation, we do the best thing. And sometimes that might be all we have, but check in with our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. So that's the alignment. Another alignment, I'm kind of just reviewing a lot of things here. Another alignment is a trade. And I don't know how probably everyone here has heard it. Oh, but I'm on Facebook. Oh yeah, we're streaming on Facebook too. So maybe someone on Facebook will hear it. And this is something that I came up with. It's really helped a lot of people, but it's trade. And it goes traditional, reciprocal, authentic, directional, and empowering. And we use those clues when we are having conversation with people. So when we're trading, first we're trading energy, then we're trading words. When we're trading energy, which is backed up by our words, we should feel that this is traditional, reciprocal, authentic, directional, and empowering. So this trade, because we're all doing business, remember business of being human, first thing we're trading energy. So we're all investing in this conversation, right? The only thing I need to really go through with people who aren't familiar with the term traditional with a capital T, traditional with capital T, pre-commoditized, pre-disposable era, pre pre-contemporary era, pre-colonial era, when there was less people and when there was less people around, period, and we were in smaller groups, it was really important. Each person had a bigger value. Because if you lost a couple people, that might be devastating to your community, to your tribe. So everyone was really important. So there was no whatever swipe left or right or whatever it is. You couldn't get away from people. Let's put it that way. So when we were in smaller communities, there was a different set of circumstances. We had to get along. We had to work out our differences. We had to understand each other. And that importance of understanding each other is the key in that traditional part of the traditional, reciprocal, authentic, directional, empowering. So we take ourselves back and bring up that level of importance to understanding the other person and to understand the other person's needs also, and to respect the other person and the value that they are spending their time on the conversation. So how do we respect each other? How do we communicate? Are we respectful of the time? So what we're doing, the conversation that we're sharing on this trade model, is it reciprocal? Is it benefiting both parties? So we're talking about human development now. We're talking about personal development, understanding our psychology. Okay. So everyone's here on their own volition, I hope. And so we're all investing in this conversation. Okay. So far, I'm assuming it's reciprocal. Authentic is the speaker being authentic, not necessarily are they factually accurate according to the latest scientific data and third party, triple blind, peer reviewed, whatever. But are they speaking their truth to the best of their ability? Are they saying what they need to say in the fairest light possible. They don't have an angle. They're not trying to persuade you in a way that benefits them in an egocentric level. So authenticity. So traditional, reciprocal, authentic, directional is our point. So this is kind of goes back to the reciprocal part a little bit, but is it directional? What are we trying to do? We're trying to learn, we're trying to grow, we're trying to understand. Our understanding alleviates illness, alleviates negative impact on our fellow being and fellow animals and planet we live on. So our directional, we're trying to grow our wellness. And when we grow our wellness as individuals, we can redistribute that out into our communities and other people, help other people grow their wellness. So traditional, reciprocal, authentic, directional. And then the last part is it empowering? What's the feeling? What's the emotional feeling we get? Do we feel empowered during the conversation? And I think that empowering includes understanding, because understanding is a huge component to emotional wellness. So do we feel good after the conversation? And I think sometimes in some of these deeper conversations about wellness, we're not looking necessarily for like overjoyed, but sometimes even a poignance, sometimes just understanding that, wow, I've got a lot of work to do, has an empowering component, because at least we know what we need to do. Because the worst thing is not knowing. That misunderstanding, the lack of understanding, confusion. I say that confusion is one of the biggest components of emotional unrest. So if we can get rid of at least some of the confusion, so we at least we're having conversations to try to alleviate some of the confusion. I think that is a huge aspect of the of alignment on our wellness journey, right? So that's the trade. So that whole thing, that traditional, reciprocal, authentic, directional, empowering, that's all alignment. Anybody have any questions or interjections, or want to share anything at this time before I rattle on some more? Anyone? Griselda, I'm just going to put
Yes.
you on the hot seat. Yeah, I know you
I
got
was like,
something
I
to
can't
say.
unmute myself. Tonight was alignment, so we avoid, or no, so we don't avoid. So we help with avoidance of people, places, and things. Is that what our alignment was for? Who
Yes,
knows?
we're getting to that. That is the next part. That is the next part. Thank you. So all those parts, I said all that to say this. So it's about right. So the next part is alignment. Is alignment and avoidance, procrastination, ADD, ADHD. Toksha, did you have something to say too?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I think it's a good topic because working in the behavior mental health field, we are basically trying to help our CEOs understand that the key is really balance, and without that balance, I don't think that any real, how do you say, human can actually function if we have one thing out of balance. We're like, me and my husband are getting ready to leave in about an hour. We're gonna go watch a cartoon. I think it's called If. It's all these little cartoons, emotions,
Mm-hmm.
teach anger, anxiety, and all these little things. And it's just how, like you said, having that understanding is really important to it. Learning who and helping and learning about the opposite person who you're engaging with. A lot of engaging is really important too, to understand what you're dealing with, because everybody's stories are different. But yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. Understanding and that and what you know, said as far as being a traditional person in that mentality to really pay attention. We've talked about this is there's a caring component, and to care, to pay attention, that's very reciprocal, and that helps our understanding. And when we care, we pay attention. Paying attention helps our understanding, helps our alignment, helps the whole situation. And people recognize that when when you're working with them. Um, so yeah, Tochea is in a Shantae is in a mental health profession. So it's always good to hear, and also Indigenous female. So always great to hear the reflections from you, Shantae, Takshi, from
Yeah.
those perspectives, and it being all up in the contemporary / colonial version of wellness. So I know you've got that big juxtaposition going on with your, with your hunting walks up with your ancestral wisdom, and then
Yeah.
seeing the attempts in contemporary society.
No,
Contemporary.
it's real great. I remember the cartoon. It's called Inside Out, and it's wonderful being in both worlds and trying to find that balance. Just being able to communicate. How do you say? And I say Washichi's world.
Uh-huh.
And so it's really, really important to understand both worlds if we want to keep moving forward, especially with our CEOs that suffer mental and behavioral health issues, which is a lot more than people even realize. Whether, like you said, it's ADD, ADHD, anxiety, depression, anger, whatever. And just learning about even even PTSD, there's a lot of things that trigger people where their emotions are just run wild. They're running rampant throughout the streets. And like you said, do need that caring capacity to understand that we're all back to traditionals, we're all family.
I'm gonna
So
talk to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's what it is, that we're all family, we're all here together. People on their, personal development, and the people that, that hang with me during these deeper conversations know this is real shit. And to understand, contemporary society, and to understand these illnesses, because how are we gonna grow, and how are we gonna make change happen if we don't like actually understand, like real legit understand, not just put a label on, not just say, oh, they're mean, or they're greedy, or it's because they're purple or whatever, but like to understand their behavior, and to understand, we're using these contemporary terms like triggers to know what people's triggers are. And I'm going to point to a good example of that. Um, and that is, yeah, what's the guy's name? Um,
Gabe, Gabor.
no, 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 it's a good one. Good one. It's close to, Eckhart Tolle. He understands the human behavior. So, instead of saying spiritual, because that's got a whole list of triggers that people go off, trigger, we know them as, we typically know them as anger, but it's a trigger for anything, and it's a trigger for misinformation also. So a lot of words have triggers: spiritual, God, love, money, all kinds of things have triggers. Yeah, Republican, Democrat, all those things. Whenever a word has trauma connected to it, whenever the person hears a word and that word reflects trauma, that's what's happening. So, that trigger, and including, including a misinformation. So Eckhart Tolle says formless self, instead of perpetuating and keeping to try to use this word that he knows that there's a lot of misinformation or a lot of trauma around, or a lot of where he doesn't want the people he's speaking to attach to, a lot of attachments, a lot of false attachments to that. So he says formless self because he's recognized the community and that trigger. So we talked about what is alignment, and yeah, the what is out of alignment. Okay, so what's out of alignment? And yes, the avoidance, procrastination, ADD, and ADHD. Okay, so out of alignment, addiction is out of alignment, right? So addiction's out of alignment. How is addiction out of alignment? Because addiction, scarcity mindset, it's not holistic. Addiction is not taking everything into account. Addiction is not taking our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual wellness into account. And don't forget that spiritual is connection to everything. So that includes environmental issues, people around us, our long-term our long-term viability in the landscape. Addiction is the compulsive reactive. The addiction is, ooh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. Trying to fill a void and the quick fix. So the addiction is that quick fix mentality versus a holistic understanding and seeing the whole picture and making a conscious, proactive, and responsive and responsible decision. So narcissism is out of alignment, of course, and even that word's kind of out of alignment because that word indicates the classic context is a extreme self-love, but it's actually the opposite. It's a superficial and it's not engaging in personal development. So the narcissist transgresses on pretty much everything around him through the compulsive reactive behavior, through the egocentric, through the addiction, through the want, trying to fill voids with everything except for what goes there. And since the narcissist isn't doing their own emotional development work, it's the hallmark of that is trespassing on other people's emotional development, right? Because that's what it's like when we're in a relationship with a narcissist. Our emotion, boom, hits bottom and our wellness doesn't grow. So that's that transgression there. Contemporary society is out of alignment. How? Well, the first easiest way is because it's not sustainable. It's not recognizing the fundamental understandings of the planet that we live in and carrying capacity. To make it simple, capitalism is out of alignment. How? Because capitalism is subjugating things with intrinsic value for something that only reflects value, right? So printed currency, money, can only, like words, this is the same thing we talked about words earlier. Printed currency and words can only reflect value in certain circumstances up to a certain point. So they don't hold value intrinsically. So capitalism sacrifices things intrinsic to life for printed currency. So that's not in alignment. And then my favorite that I think that a lot of people kind of look sideways at, but the clock. How is the clock not in alignment? Because the clock does not reflect natural cycles. Okay. So here's the out of alignment. Here's just step back and look at those last few things. Contemporary society with being out of alignment with ground we walk on and the environment that our species developed in, capitalism, printed currency, and the clock. But most people relate to those three things: government, money, clocks, on a regular basis. So how does relating to something on a regular basis that's out of alignment affect our own personal alignment? Think about that for a second, right? It's pretty obvious. So that's why we understand these things that are out of alignment, so we can do what? So we can grow our healthy boundaries, so we can grow boundaries around these things. So even though we're in them and we have to deal with them, if we grow our understanding, then we can help alleviate their effects and enable and facilitate our growth in adverse conditions. That's what's going on. So we have with the ADD, ADHD, that sort of thing, avoidance and procrastination. And probably everyone here has heard me talk about this, because I've talked to everybody here, in person and on the phone. When they say ADD, attention deficit disorder, first of all, what are we supposed to be paying attention to? Typically, these are things used to describe people that aren't well adjusted to contemporary society. And a lot of times it has to do with clocks. Timing is a huge factor with people that have the label of ADD, ADHD. Sticking to a time frame and following through and getting things done. But again, what are we supposed to be paying attention to? Because contemporary psychology is looking at the human in relation to how well it's adapted to contemporary society. And that is not wellness. See? That's a huge, important thing. Adapting, being well adapted to a sick society is not wellness. So there's a few catches here, right? And we just went over the government, money, clocks, how they're not in alignment. Day jobs aren't in alignment with the way our species developed over the last 300 plus thousand years. Not to mention our genus, not to mention whatever came before that. Day jobs are not in alignment with anything else on the planet. So they're a symptom of a mentality that was disconnected from a few different things. Internal environment and external environment being the main things, right? Contemporary society, contemporary laws mandating human behavior, doesn't understand volition, doesn't really understand freedom, doesn't understand that people, in order to have a cohesive society, people need to voluntarily buy into the concept from their own volition. I'm going to throw something else in here too, is that your vote is not your voice. Here's an alignment. Your vote is not your voice. This is your voice. Well, you guys aren't speaking too much right now, but you will. But to be able to have a full conversation with someone, that's your voice. A vote, giving a multiple choice, and sometimes not even a multiple choice, that's not your voice. So don't confuse your voice with a vote for all you voters out there, because a lot of people, they lose their voice with a vote. Or how are we going to fix things? Vote. That's compulsive, reactive. That's not understanding the full scope of things. That's being stuck in a society of addiction. That's being stuck in a compulsive, reactive, quick fix mentality. Think about it. All these things, all these challenges with the human species, we are not going to buy or vote our way into the future. So, super important. But the ADD, the ADHD, avoidance and procrastination, there's deeper instincts that humans have for survival. And that alignment and that pattern recognition is deep, is way deep. It's way deeper than any colonial style government. It's way deeper than this superficial overlay we have in contemporary society. So what I'm saying is, hey, what I'm saying is, hey, Eduardo, talk about ADD and ADHD. Squirrel. That was
Definitely squirrel. He's just
that was
walking by.
Eduardo, and this guy, everything I'm saying, he knows. He knows really well. I think Eduardo has one of the best understandings of both contemporary and traditional culture that I know. So yeah, it's an honor to even see his face for half a second. Anyway, back to the story. Contemporary psychology is looking at the human in its relationship to the present, but it's not looking at the human in its relationship to its evolutionary trajectory as an organism on this planet. Don't ask me why. I got words for that. I got plenty of input there. But when we talk about species, because I have a background in fisheries, forestry, wildlife, we look at the evolution of the species. And if you've heard this talk, or you've heard me say this before, is that you don't understand an organism unless you understand the environment that it evolved in. So contemporary psychology looks at the organism separate from the environment. It doesn't understand the evolutionary trajectory. So the evolutionary trajectory of the human species and every other species on this planet has nothing to do with government, money clocks, day jobs, Lamborghinis, Maseratis, Whole Foods, New Seasons, Walmarts, cars, TVs, computers, everything, shoes, maybe moccasins, maybe some clothes, right? Think of all the artificial things that the humans are in, that are relating to plastic, metal, glass, everything. So many things in our environment are things that have not been in our environment 99.9999999 plus percent of our existence. And so now contemporary society wants to say, oh, well, you can't focus. You have problems with your concentration. That's not right. It's not what's happening. It's that you put an organism into an environment with things that are completely unfamiliar and completely unnatural, and you're seeing natural reactions to the organism not wanting to engage in them because they're not sustainable. Because natural law from nature, from the planet that we evolved in and every other species, sustainability, okay? Connection to everything, balance, challenge, ebb, flow, cycles. So that's the planet. Now, certain sections of humans, certain human demographics have created a pseudo system, have created a false habitat and forced everyone in. Welcome narcissism. that doesn't have any of these things. And then we'll turn around and say, oh, well, you're not well adjusted to society. So our core essence is looking for consistency, is looking for pattern recognition, is looking for these things, the sustainability. Is this sustainable? We have an instinct that lets us know if things are right or wrong. And if everyone would hold their instinct up to Americana, you would clearly see that it's wrong. And if you think about it, you can clearly identify a gazillion different ways that it's wrong. So act as such. I'm acting as such. I'm doing the best I can. I just said it. If you know me, that's all I talk about. A lot of other people are saying that, but the personal effect to see people that have had these labels stuck on them. And I see good people, I see people with good hearts that have had these labels stuck on them that think that they're, and that have had this false narrative that they're, off center, or that something's wrong with them because they've had these labels put on them their whole lives in contemporary society. And so I always like to try to, add some more context to this conversation about psychology from the aspect of fisheries, forestry, and wildlife, natural science. Look at the organism from its environment. Again, you don't understand the organism unless you understand its environment. Look at the environment that the organism evolved in, and now look at the environment that it's in right now. And how fast was that organism put into this environment? Now, we see this reflected in adapting to unhealthy environment is not a healthy organism, right? There's another false narrative. Oh, well, you just need to adapt. Well, adapting to sickness is not wellness. So, there's a lot of false narratives that we need to understand and put boundaries up, to say the least. We see what happens. Speak plainly, European culture had this off track, this out of alignment system, disconnected from nature, disconnected from individuality and from autonomy. Came over here and forced free people into involuntary servitude, basically, which is par for the course. And which is exact reflection on narcissism. The narcissism, you're a slave to the narcissist, same thing. Narcissism, capitalism, colonialism, right? Is everyone's pattern recognition working still? Okay, just checking. So, and we see how that happens when an organism is taken off its evolutionary trajectory. It doesn't do very well, and it's horrific. And being forced off its evolutionary trajectory is horrific. So the fact that there's rampant, people not being well adjusted to a sick society is just evolution. Of course, eventually, it's not. How do you adjust to something that doesn't function? Colonial society is dysfunction at its finest. It's the epitome of dysfunction. So, of course, naturally, and if everyone's honest with themselves, no one's happy with the situation because we can tell, one, it's not sustainable. Two, it's not conducive to personal development. And when I say it's not sustainable, I want to include that it's trespassing on the things we need for life. So just like any invasive species, the organism takes up all its resources and cannibalizes itself. So lack of understanding carrying capacity. Lack of understanding carrying capacity in the physical environment is abuse of external external things we need for life: food, water, shelter, fresh air, clean soil, that kind of thing. Not recognizing carrying capacity in each other. Remember, traditional, reciprocal, authentic, directional powering. The traditional part, knowing each other, actually knowing each other, but not recognizing carrying capacity in each other. That's when people are trespassing on each other and each other's boundaries. When people are transgressing on each other's energy and not respecting each other's individuality. So all those things, when we say avoidance, procrastination, and if you think that you have these symptoms, and if you have these symptoms that are commonly referred to ADD, ADHD, think about the context. Do your own psychology, right? We should all know our own psychology best. And is it helpful to have reflections of others? Yeah. But not just to go to the doctor and, well, the doctor says I'm this, or the psychologist says I'm this. We need to know ourselves first and then bring in outside help. Remember what we said earlier? Keep our own counsel. Does that diagnosis, or it's not a diagnosis? Gabor Mate says this too. There's real professional papered psychologists and physiologists and that say the same thing I'm saying too, by the way. That, these ADD, ADHD, listen to Gabor Mate. He says it pretty well. Those aren't diagnoses, they're observations. So the observation is the organism is not adapted to its environment. So that's an observation. That's not a diagnosis. It's not saying how things are, because no one's got that. That's not even a human-centric thing. Humans can't say how things are. We can only observe different parts of that. So think about how those observations, how they resonate with your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Do those observations of ADD, ADHD, avoidance, procrastination, do they resonate with your spiritual? Do they resonate with your emotional? Because most people that have put those false diagnoses on them, their diagnosis don't resonate with them. So you can tell something's wrong. And it's another colonial frailty to have someone clearly explain why they disagree, instead of saying, just if you don't feel it's right. Because at our core, our instincts and our emotion both energetically tell us that those diagnoses aren't right. Now, I'm speaking in general terms. Of course, there's going to be individual variances and things like that. But overall, that would be the place to start with this aspect. Is what's the habitat? What are these symptoms? Under what set of circumstances are these symptoms being observed? Well, these symptoms of ADD, ADHD, avoidance, and procrastination, they're all observed in conditions where someone is forced into a situation not of their own volition. Key. Volition matters. Our autonomy matters. If you hook a fish, it fights to be free. If you trap an animal, it fights to escape. Mandated behavior, aka laws, colonialism 101, doesn't work. Abolition doesn't work. That's commonly known. Mandating morality doesn't work. Those are all the same things. So our own volition, we have to align with our own volition in order for a healthy existence to happen. We have to align with our own volition. Whatever we're doing, it has to align with our own volition. Now, having a cohesive society definitely aligns with everybody's own volition, but you can't mandate that. There's naturally occurring variances in individuality that cannot be disrupted, that need to remain, for lack of better terms, wild. One better term is watogla. Is the original way. Watogla. Wild. Needs to remain wild. Our human, our core essence, our individuality, there's natural variances that need to be just whatever they are. Whatever personality traits, someone's super emotionally in tune, then that's what they are. If someone's super spiritually in tune, then that's what they are. If someone's super intellectually in tune, that's what they are. If someone's super physically in tune, that's what they are. But when we know these things about each other, then we understand that's where we all fit. We all fit from that cohesiveness of our individuality. And then we all have something unique to trade. If someone's more aligned with their infant facet, their adolescent facet, their adult facet, their elder facet, their male facet, their female facet, they're both facet, they're neither facet, then that's what they are. And there's important lessons. And outliers create the average. And the outliers have the biggest effect on the average. Look at all the effect that all the artists and all the philosophers has had on society, right? Socrates, they killed him. Christ killed him, allegedly, according to the story. Caveat, disclaimer. John Lennon killed him. Dimebag Darrell killed him. If anyone knows that one. But all these people would be referred to as outcasts, as outliers. Einstein was the other one I was thinking. Of course, he somehow gained some pretty good popularity. But a lot of people, a lot of these outliers had huge contributions to the collective, even though people didn't understand what they were talking about at the time. Tesla, oh my gosh, there's so many, like everyone that came up with something new, no one understood at the time. So, that's an understanding, that's an alignment when we're talking to each other. That just because, we might not completely understand someone doesn't mean that their input is invalid. So at the same time, the balance factor is when we understand each other enough to know when someone's just full of shit, or that they're not aligned with the cohesiveness as everybody, or if they're stuck in a compulsive reactive phase, if they're narcissistic, if they're not doing their homework, if they're not doing their thought processing, so on and so forth, if they're not good at taking account in everything. So that ADD, the ADHD thing, there's a huge alignment part of those. So it's really important to, add some context and like understand ourselves, be our own counsel, So don't listen to what other people say, but be our own counsel and understand our species. And again, the saying from natural science is you don't understand an organism unless you understand the environment that it evolved in. And so then you're understanding the history of the species, you're understanding the evolution of the species. Well, we're talking about humans, and we're all humans here. So that means we don't understand ourselves unless we understand our environment and our history. And that's what I've personally then found to be true after being in contemporary education, fisheries, forestry, wildlife, understanding all the interconnectivity of things and cycles and balance, and then to follow my own path, my own individual path of what they call psychology, personal development, and seeing the reflections of all these natural cycles in our psychology. So by understanding the external environment, ebb, flow, challenge, connection to everything, cycles, ebb, flow, challenge, connection to everything, cycle, sustainability, balance, we see those in the personal development and how those things come into play when understanding our species. So first, if you're going to understand yourself as an individual, you have to understand the environment and look at yourself as a species, right? So we kind of went earlier, we talked about looking ourselves as 4 parts or 12 parts, but that's the individual isn't an individual, it's 12 parts. But those 12 parts evolved in an environment, in a natural environment for eons and eons. And they say, hey, good to see you guys. We got some celebrities dropping in on our wellness. Some traditional Mexica people.
Everybody said hello.
Hello.
And now they're gone.
All right.
Yolo was just doing a quick cameo.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. Good to see everybody. So yeah, avoiding oppression and the need for autonomy is a foundational understanding of the human species. And that's our mirror. Understanding ourselves as a species, understanding our needs, understanding our core needs, our core essence. And then we can see, more individuality, more individual characteristics. And, oh, look, this person likes pistachio ice cream when everyone else likes strawberry, whatever. But, we're all way more alike than we are different. But within that, there's that uniqueness that helps us fit together, that we naturally align with each other, right? Alignment, don't forget, balance is part of alignment. Balance cycles, ebb, flow. That balance is part of alignment. Understanding balance, understanding where we bring different components and different skill sets to the table, which is to the community, right? So we've got physical people and cognitive thought process people and emotional intelligence people and spiritual people. All those people on their own individual path. The cycle is that we're individuals, we grow on our individual, and then we trade that with each other so we can help grow our collective understanding. And that's how a cohesive society functions. And that is alignment. And that is end of the wellness workshop. That is the end of the wellness workshop. Alignment. That's how a cohesive society functions. This video will be available on YouTube in a couple days. YouTube channel, MyBizGuide. Facebook, of course, MyBizGuide. TikTok, MyBizGuide. Instagram, MyBizGuide. Website under construction, but of course, www.mybizguide.com. I'm Kraig Smyth, your wellness advocate, co-host Griselda, co-advocate Griselda, and Business of Being Human. This is what we do. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate everybody joining in and joining this conversation. I am now going to switch to the good part of the show, the real good part of the show, the more better part of the show. This is the after party, and everyone that's here on Zoom is going to talk amongst each other and have a free-flowing conversation. But that is not going to be recorded. So if you want to hang with us at the after party, I highly suggest joining us on the Zoom. And the real fun's going to start now, but we had a good time. Thanks everybody on Facebook. Thanks everybody that watched this at a later date or whatever. Much appreciated. Catch you later.
Love the after parties.